right, Thrill Seekers. That was Sweet Emotion by request from somebody in the comments section. Probably only slightly sloppier than Aerosmith would have played it on a lot of Jack Daniels. Only I am not drinking Jack Daniels. I'm just a sloppy bass player. I must have done that, I don't know, 150 times to get it right, but I only learned it last night, so that's my excuse. Anyway, I thought I would present to you today something that I just read last night. So everything is from last night. So last night I learned Sweet Emotion on the bass, and last night I read a little chapter of this book, Your Head in the Tiger's Mouth, Talks in Bombay by Ramesh S. Balsekar. Oh, and before I forget, note the set dressing. A dollar store Halloween decoration gravestone made of styrofoam that will not stand up. It was supposed to be up during the bass Sweet Emotion thing, but it fell over. So you probably didn't see it unless you were looking closely, because it fell over. Anyhow, today's topic, something from this book by Ramesh S. Balsekar. So I've been reading occasionally from stuff by Ramesh S. Balsekar, so a little background on who he was. He was a teacher in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, although I met a guy, what was his name? Sorry, I had to stop the recording. I'm terrible with names, especially if they're kind of foreign names that I'm not familiar with. So I had to run back in and find my notebook where I'd written down the guy's name. I met a guy in Lyon when I was in Lyon, France last month, and his name was Didier Weiss, whose name sounds German to me, but I guess he was French. I'm not sure. Seemed French to me. Anyway, met him in France, and he was a student of Ramesh Balsekar, and he mentioned that in his opinion Ramesh Balsekar really wasn't part of the Advaita Vedanta tradition. So, the distinctions are kind of lost on me, but he wasn't a Buddhist anyway, and he seemed connected more to that Hindu tradition. He was a student of Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramesh Balsekar was, and Didier Weiss was a student of Ramesh Balsekar. And very interesting fellow, and had a lot of interesting ideas about meditation and enlightenment and this and that kind of stuff that I talk about too. So I think we can learn from that tradition as well, even though it's outside of the Buddhist tradition. Oh, there's a picture of him on the back of the book. And let me see if I can show you the picture a little bit better. So I happened to be reading this chapter last night in this book, Your Head in the Tiger's Mouth, which is from Advaita Press, if you want to go get a copy yourself. And the chapter is called, what is the chapter? Oh, it's just called Scene 13. So every chapter is called Scene something, scene number something. And I'll read you, it's all dialogues, and here he's speaking to some people. I think they're mostly French people. I can't see what's going on in the monitor because the light it's very overcast today, which is unusual for this part of the world. And I can tell that Ziggy's walking around behind me, and I hope he's not peeing or pooping behind me, which will make interesting visuals for you guys out there to look at. But I can't see in the monitor. All I can see is that he's behind me. And there's a lot of sirens and stuff. It's like I'm back in LA. I don't know what's going on there. And now I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if the mic is picking it up, and now the dogs in the neighborhood are all howling at the sirens that they've just heard going past. So a lot of adventure going on here. I'm lucky that Ziggy is not one of those dogs who howls in response to sirens, but my sister-in-law's dog, Fico, because they're realtors, they named their dog Fico, because Fico sounds a little bit like Fido, and Fico is the kind of thing realtors do. It's a kind of credit score, I guess. It's a kind of joke. Anyway, Fico is one of those dogs who howls whenever he hears sirens, so it's kind of annoying. Anyhow, here is the dialogue, and Ramesh is talking to some, I believe they're mostly German people. One of them's name's Yves, so I guess that's a French person? I don't know. Anyway, I'll just read the dialogue to you because I thought it was interesting. So here we go. Yves says, "This process of enlightenment becomes something which is really attracting, like a magnet, Ramesh says, "Sure. Eve says, I want to be enlightened, but nobody knows what it is, really. But everybody wants to be there because it seems like a fairy tale. Ramesh says, no. Basically, what is a seeker seeking enlightenment for, Eves? What is he seeking for? Eve says, he has been programmed, conditioned. So that's part of Ramesh's trip. He says everybody is programmed or conditioned to seek something. So if you're a seeker for enlightenment, it's only because you're programmed or conditioned to seek for enlightenment. So even a seeker for enlightenment doesn't need to feel very proud for being a seeker of enlightenment, because it's just part of the programming, and it's part of the programming of what he calls the body-mind organism. So Eve says, because he's been programmed, conditioned, ? Ramesh says, no. That is why he is seeking. But what is it that he is seeking? What is it that a seeker is seeking and calls it enlightenment? He seeks it as an object which will give him more pleasure than anything in the world has so far given him. You see what I am getting at? Eve says, yes. Ramesh says, the seeker, so long as there is a seeker seeking enlightenment, is seeking enlightenment as an object which will give him more pleasure than any other object in the world has given him so far, beyond his imagination. Whatever any object in the world has given him, and he thinks can give him, this object, enlightenment, will be 1,000 times greater. That's why he's seeking that object. Eve says, so the individual, the ego, everything is still there. Ramesh says, very much. Isn't that right, Wolfgang? And Wolfgang says, yes, something like eternal cosmic orgasm. Ramesh says, something like that, yes. Wolfgang says, bliss, 24 hours. Ramesh says, those are Rajneesh's words. Apparently Wolfgang has studied with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, the subject of that, what was that? God, it was a documentary I did a review of that got a bazillion views on this video channel. And if I remember the name of the documentary, I will, what was it called? A Wild Wild Country. I was going to put it down on the thingy, but I don't need to because it's called Wild Wild Country. Anyway, Rajneesh was the subject of that, also known as Osho. Wolfgang says, yes. Ramesh says, cosmic orgasm, laughing. Wolfgang says, like when you take drugs and have good experiences, then you want it more. Ramesh says, that is, in fact, these drugs which produce this image of an object, you see? And then he changes the subject and it goes on to some other topic. But I thought that was interesting because that's true. And I think it's true in my own case. I think it's true for, probably most of us and probably most of you out there who, or maybe a lot of you who are watching this video channel. Anyone who's interested in this enlightenment thing, this kind of whatever it is we're seeking when we're reading books about Zen or meditation or getting into meditation practices and all this stuff, a lot of us are seeking for enlightenment, and a lot of us look at enlightenment as the 24/7 orgasm experience, bliss forever, the biggest pleasure, the most wonderful experience that we are going to have as a subject with an object that is going to give it to us. So we're still going to be subjectively experiencing the object, which is the wonderful pleasure beyond all pleasure experience. I think it's something like that. We might not conceive it in quite that way. Some people are more sort of blatant about it and, actually say it in so many words. Apparently Rajneesh said it in so many words, and a lot of people who are in the game of being spiritual teachers will describe it that way and sell it to their people, their minions, as it were. I guess minions has taken on a whole new meaning because of the movies. I guess there's more than one movie about minions. But, to the people who follow them, their followers, their devotees, they'll sell it to people as this ultimate pleasure experience, and people get into that. I probably didn't think of it as the ultimate pleasure experience until it was pointed out to me by others that, hey, Brad, you're seeking the ultimate pleasure experience. And I went, oh yeah, I kind of am, and admitted it to myself reluctantly that, yeah, I think I am probably seeking the ultimate pleasure experience. So what do you do about that would be the question I would ask myself or my teachers. And the answer is, that's just notice that you're doing that. I think it's important to know and to admit to yourself that you are doing that you're seeking it as the ultimate pleasure experience, and to the extent that it's possible, try to drop that. But it's not that it's going to ruin the whole thing, the fact that somewhere in the back of your mind you're seeking enlightenment as the ultimate pleasure experience, the 24/7 orgasm or whatever it is. The fact that that's there in your mind with all the other jumble of BS and garbage that's in your mind, there's a lot of stuff in your mind, and you're not going to be able to do much about that. So, okay, fine. Somewhere in the back of your mind, there is this thing that's seeking enlightenment as the ultimate pleasure experience. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in there. There's I don't know, a memory of a train you saw one time, or a book about UFOs that you read if you're me, or Rodan. Rodan, the giant Japanese monster, is somewhere buried in your memory. Well, if you're me, it is. There's a lot of stuff in there, and most of it's random and meaningless, including the fact that you are seeking enlightenment as the ultimate pleasure experience. It's all just there. And so none of it's particularly meaningful, none of it's particularly bad or good, it's just there. But when it's there as a driving force, when it is kind of the thing that guides you, when you are kind of in your meditation, kind of going, is this ultimate pleasure? No. Okay, that's not it. Okay, is this ultimate pleasure? No, that's not it. Okay, and you're seeking it, and you're trying to compare everything against your idea of ultimate pleasure, then that's going to be a problem. When you notice that you're doing it and then you drop it each time that you notice you're doing it, then it's not a problem. Then it ceases to be a problem. Just continuously drop it. Just continuously drop every object that you have for your meditation. The one thing that I've found useful is the idea of meditating on the meditator. And here's a little quote that I found in a book of talks by Ramana Maharshi, also from the Hindu tradition, not a Buddhist. But I found it useful in conjunction with this idea of meditating on the meditator. And you might try it out, it might be useful to you. It says, try to realize that the body is not you, the emotions are not you, the intellect is not you. When these are stilled, you will find something else is there. Hold it, that it will reveal itself. Now, holding it is an interesting instruction, because you can't really hold it. But I think what he means, the way I would phrase it, would be more something like stay there, or at least try to stay there, at least try to rest there, and try not to disturb that, and try to kind of stay with that as long as you can, ride that wave as long as you can in sort of surfing metaphor. And you won't be able, well, most people aren't able to stay there very long, but stay there as long as you can and see what that is. See what's there that's not the intellect, that's not the body. What does he say? That's not the emotions, that's not your thoughts, that's not that thing that's driving you to try to find pleasure, that's not the thing that's driving you to try to avoid pain, that's not that fear of death, it's not whatever else that's going on. But is that something that is there beyond all of this, that's always there, that's always there no matter what else is going on, that's even there when you're fast asleep and there's not even dreams are going on. There's something that's still there even past all of that. And sometimes when you're sitting zazen, you can notice that a little bit, and that might be something that's useful. So there you go. That was a kind of a rambling sort of talk for the morning, and a little bit of the baseline of sweet emotion to entertain you on a Thursday, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to contribute to me doing what I do, you can go to the URL that you are seeing on your screen below, which is Hardcore Zen, over here, hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main and usually only ways of making a living, so I appreciate your support. I just got back from a tour of Europe, and I got paid for most of the events I did there, and that'll sustain me for a month or so. And then I'll have to start relying on your donations again, because that is the way things go in my life. Book royalties don't pay my rent. These speaking fees don't pay my rent. What pays my rent mostly is donations from you folks out there. So I appreciate your support, but as always, this is offered for free, so you don't gotta donate if you don't want to donate. We will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Laters. Bisels. Hey Ziggy, you trying to catch flies? Ziggy always tries to catch flies. I've never seen him catch one, but he's always seeking flies that he can try to catch in his mouth. Alright, Ziggy. I'll let you keep hunting flies. I'll go in and edit the video. Or you can come in with me. Alright, later, Ziggy.